The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. And away we grow. Welcome, one and all. So glad you could make it. Thanks for tuning in, friends. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast. I'm your happy host who smells like compost. My name is Kevin Jordan, back in studio, fellow plant lover like yourselves. We have a great episode for you this week. Actually, I usually, week in and week out, I'm with Austin. We're running around. We're meeting all these amazing new garden friends. But in today's episode, I'm sharing with you one of my own personal, actual garden friends. This is a colleague. I would say somebody who's honestly one of my best friends in real life, in IRL, and someone who I get to probably garden alongside more than any other person on the planet. Of course, I'm talking with Mr. Alex Ayuli, educator extraordinaire. I cannot wait to introduce him to our audience. But first, I got to say hi to Austin on the microphone. How's it going there, Austin?
Hey, Kevin, I'm doing good, and I love it every time we get a new guest in here. We've done this a couple times, and I always have a blast. The more the merrier.
Family episode. Yeah,
right?
We're in-house. Yeah, I forgot to say, we got Mr. A in studio for this episode, which is a rare treat. So I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of nice. I feel like I'm sharing a special gem, part of my life with other people. And like I said, this is somebody that I garden with day in and day out. Since Mr. A has come to our program, I think it's been 4+ years now at the school. And I'll toot his horn. Last year, Austin, he was Educator of the Year for our entire district.
Wow.
So pretty impressive. Yeah, Employee of the Year. And so since he's arrived at our program, the garden has never looked better. He puts in as much, if not more, work into that garden as me. He works alongside his students. He's just all around an amazing educator. He's so patient with these kids. I tell you what, I cannot sing his praises enough. But so I'm really happy to share him with us and actually learn that he's, like I said, he's been gardening deep in it, day in and day out, 5 days a week for the past 4 or 5 years with me. So it'd be curious. You can pick his brain a little bit.
Okay,
maybe.
I'm down.
So we're gonna learn. Hopefully get fired up about growing. We're gonna talk all about starting from seed, fall gardening, how we're able to garden year round at our school garden and stay successful. How to overcome these setbacks and how to maybe even deal with some pests. Everything that we do is organic, and Mr. A is a big part of that. So I cannot wait to share him with you all.
Let's go ahead and officially introduce Mr. A to the studio. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex, Mr. A, as I'm known at Palmiter, where I work with Kevin. I'm his assistant in the horticultural department, and we work with at-risk youth and hopefully, have an impact on their lives. Kevin, that was a pretty awesome intro. Hope I can live up to everything that you guys have been saying so far.
For sure. Well, you do all the time. I love working with you. You know that. And so this is a special treat. So Mr. Ayuli, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what brought you here today?
Okay. Well, as you can probably guess from my accent, I'm from London, England. And
we won't hold that against you.
And I came here many years ago chasing a girl.
That happens.
Aw, that's romantic.
We got married and started a life here. I didn't ever think I was going to be living here for so long, but 30 years went by and here I still am. So,
wow.
Yeah, but I still have very much my English roots, and I think that's where my affinity with gardening comes from, because in England, gardens are a very important part of the life.
I know. I love that culture for that. It's like when you hear about some of the English gardens, the no-till, and just it seems so idyllic.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a trip.
Yeah, we have the climate for it there. We have a lot of rain and mild summers and fairly mild winters. So we can grow a lot of plants. Yeah.
It sounds so nice compared to some of these blistering summer days we've had. please, what led you into education? And I really want to start with that. Is why is it so important for us to have schools with gardens to get students into the garden?
Yeah, well, I'd never come across a program like this. When I was a kid growing up, we didn't have programs where we were in the gardens. Gardens were like what you did at home, on the weekends. So when I first got into education, it was primarily with special education with the school district, with SCOE. And I moved around working with different populations of kids. Some of them were in wheelchairs, couldn't speak. Some of them had behavioral challenges. So I really ran the gamut. And I just found that I was good with kids. And I was calm around them. I was patient with them. I was kind to them. And they seemed to like that. They seemed to respond. So, I just got deeper and deeper into it.
I love it. You're not kidding, because when you see Mr. A with the student, you're like, wow, how is he so patient with the student? Kids screaming in his face or being upset about somebody else, and he's just like, I don't have that skill. That's why it's kind of enjoyable to work with you, because that's the skill set that I don't have, and so it's something for me to admire and kind of learn from.
Well, it's definitely something you could apply to the garden too, right? Like, because the plants aren't always going to behave. The weather's not going to behave. And to be able to stay calm in any kind of, whatever life throws at you, do you think that's benefited you in the garden?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly how I see gardens. I see gardens the way that I see young people. They need a lot of nurturing, a lot of care, a lot of attention, a lot of work. And then at some point, they give you something back, right? And with kids, it's that smile on the face when they eat an apple that they grew. It's that thank you, Mr. A, at the end of the day when they've had a good session in the garden. Those kind of little things are the fruits, that we have as educators working in gardens.
Yeah, right on. So how long have you been working with Kevin?
About 3. This is the 3rd year or the 4th.
I think the 4th, because we came back right after COVID, and this actually leads into one of my questions, because the garden has never looked more immaculate. Even in between seasons, it looks pretty good. And we've had a huge battle with the weeds. When we were shut out of the school for so long, we came back to a garden that was just overrun with really thick weeds, Bermuda grass, nut sedge galore, and then many other annual weeds. But we kind of overcame them, I think, in a way. And that was going to lead me into one of my questions. Maybe we'd start with that. As how, from your perspective, what are some of the best methods that we've used to tackle really difficult weeds like the Bermuda grass and the nut sedge? It's like I said, it was such a huge problem for us. But we kind of have, I would say, we've kind of overcome it to a degree, and we did it all without chemicals. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think it's just elbow grease. Just getting in there every day, pulling them out. And then as soon as you see new ones coming, getting back in there and pulling those out. And over again. Actually, I don't mind. I actually like weeding.
Really? I like that it's not a hack. He's like, you just got to do it.
For sure. And just keeping on it. I think the consistency. Because the nut sedge, if you forget about it, let it get thick again, then it's just a big bore to get rid of. Same thing with Bermuda grass. Those rhizomes spread. So...
And there's no winning, right? There's always going to be weeds.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like there's only, what did Benjamin Franklin say? The only thing for sure in life is...
death and taxes. And then weeds. And weeds, for sure. So, I mean, we did chop some down. We did some solarizing and all that initially, but you can only do that. So for us, once we did that, it kind of got us ahead of the curve. But what Mr. A does really well is the consistencies. He'll get out there anytime we have just a gap in our day. It could be 10, 15 minutes. He has this really cool tool that he utilizes, the diamond hoe, which is a cultivator and a weeder tool, and it just gets in between all these cracks and crevices, and he gets to all those weeds really early.
So you're using a diamond hoe to weed?
Yeah, I use a diamond hoe, and I have this kind of blade tool. It's kind of like it digs and it cuts. It has a cool name? What's that called? That has a cool name.
It's like a Japanese gardening knife, like a hori-hori.
That's it. Hori-hori, yeah. That and the diamond hoe together.
They're just perfect team.
Yeah. So I like to use that hori-hori to dig down, because with the nut sedge, for instance, you got to kind of get underneath it so that when you pull it out, it doesn't leave the nut behind. You want to get the nut on it as well. And that way you've got rid of that plant, it's gone. It's only when you pull out the nutsedge and the nuts are left behind that they re-sprout.
Right.
So you can't get every single one of them, but over time you can really like get it down. This summer has been the best ever.
Yeah, really, I think far back, the first summer you could still see, we cleared them all out. They kind of came back a little bit, then it's just gotten better and better. When it comes to other garden pests, Mr. A, you've been very helpful in taking care of the aphid problem in the crepe myrtles.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about that? Because I think there's a lot of people out there who, we grow these yummy plants or these beautiful ornamentals, and then everything else in nature also wants to get a piece. So how did you get on top of the aphid and the ant problem that we had with our strawberries?
Yeah, well, it's the ants. The ants are a bugbear of mine. I really dislike them. And what can I say? There are things that I actually don't like in the garden, ants being one of them.
Sure.
But they're playing a role also, so we can't just like wholesale wipe them out. So for me, one of the strategies that seems to work is just to discourage the entry onto the plant. And one of the products that I've enjoyed using is the Tanglefoot. And just like painting that around the base of the trunk of the crepe myrtles, it creates a barrier for the ants. They can't pass up it. And the ants that are in the tree, they can't get out, and they seem to just, die off after a while. They don't have access to food or anything on the ground. So it breaks the ant colonies up. And then just maintaining that, just keeping the base of those plants covered in that Tanglefoot seems to really help. I like that. And then we also place ant traps, organic ones that are not toxic to humans or to other animals. And those are placed around the hot spots, where the ant hills are, and where we see lines of ants traveling up and down. We will bait places like that. And basically, we just manage them. We just keep them down to a respectable level. We're not going to get rid of them ever, but we just don't want them where we don't want to see them.
Yeah, for sure. Bringing in all those aphid eggs and farming the aphid. What did you eventually spray on those strawberries, though? Because I know everything that we do is organic, and we have. I try to have different selections for us to use, you and myself included. But what has been your kind of like your organic pesticide of choice for this summer?
Lately, I've been using more the insecticidal soap. Sometimes I'll use neem oil to spray directly onto the aphids and onto the bugs on the plant. And but everything just natural, nothing chemical. And just not being squeamish about when thousands of ants suddenly crawl out of the earth, when you're working there. When we were transplanting, or we were working with the strawberries, and I would take them off of the stands that they were on, so they work on each one individually. And in some of them, the ants had actually started little nests. So as I was pruning back the strawberry...
Inside the containers,
Inside the containers. So as I was pruning back the strawberry plants, it would disturb the nest, and you get like 1,000 ants.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. So then I would just spray them with the insecticidal soap and plenty of water, flush them all out. And on one or two occasions, we had to actually flush out the soil and
I saw that.
replant the plant in fresh soil.
But the strawberries look good now.
Yeah, we'll do whatever it takes, to get those plants to be pest-free as much as we can. And then, the strawberries really flourish after that.
For sure. And it's one of those things where I've noticed in our garden where if we wait too long to get ahead of the pests, then they just become a bigger problem. So when we get to them early, it's a much more manageable problem to take care of, for sure.
Yeah, and not be afraid to rip it out and start again. We got that first flush of strawberries over the summer, and so we're trying to get a full flush, and so it's okay at that point, I feel, to carefully pull out, remove the plant from the soil. If the soil is saturated with ants, just dump that out and get a new, new soil in there and replant the plant. And it will, as long as it's cared for and we give it enough water, it will reestablish itself and start putting out strawberries. So the ones that I've done that, I've seen them and they're doing okay.
Yeah, and they're loving the cooler temperatures for sure.
Nice. I actually have a question, pest related. I'm wondering if you have any advice for a fall garden. I plan on planting brassicas, and I know that they attract Those, what are those? Those
Everything. Aphids. Aphids
those
love 'em.
white, those little horrible looking.
Oh, cabbage moths.
Those.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for dealing with that
Where are you planting them?
in the ground?
In ground, just out here?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin he gets access to all of these organic pesticides and fertilizers, so that nothing that we use is ever like a chemical product. It's always a natural product. But we will use that product BT and just stay on it. I think the thing to do is to just be consistent with the application of it and to not just spray it on and then walk away and hope it's done. Come back and check it a couple of days later.
Totally. BT, that's the bacterium.
Bacterium thuringiensis
There it
or whatever.
is.
Yeah.
I don't have that memorized yet.
Bacterium gets in their little caterpillar's guts. They can't digest food and then they die. Sad little creature.
It's a horrible way to die.
Yeah.
I heard that you could actually, if you put little saucers of beer out, they'll
for the slugs and snails?
Yeah, things like that will crawl in and die in the beer. They get drunk. They die happy, at least.
Yeah, right. It's the one way to go. Well, it's a great way you brought that up because the brassicas, when they're young, it's not just those cabbage moths that are a problem, those little caterpillars. It's what you just mentioned, Mr. A. It's the slugs and snails. Especially if your garden is near somewhere where there's a lot of moisture, if there's cover where they can kind of where they can kind of nest and then come out to your garden. I've had whole seedlings. I'll come out and they're just defoliated and nibbled down to like a nub in one night. So that if you're not into that, they'll use like Sluggo products like that, or you can do the bait traps like Mr. A said. That's kind of fun because you can come out and check it, and it lets you kind of know maybe a little bit more of the activity in your garden and what's kind of going on, or some maybe do both. A little bit of Sluggo, and Sluggo is organic. As well, and I think it's just
cool.
It's one thing you can do just to protect them because
I got to
really
do multiple with the brassicas. There's multiple waves of invaders
for sure, and I feel like for me, the more mature they get, the kind of further along you are, the less it becomes an issue. But with those first few weeks, you want to just make sure they get off to a good start and plant them deep up that stem. That's what I've noticed for. My brassicas, whenever I've had problems in the past, I never told you this, Mr. A. I have problems with brassica. No, I planted them too shallow, right? And so the broccoli kind of grow. They get a little leggy. They're top heavy, right? They're like that guy at the gym who's just really big but has like legs like me, little chicky legs and chicken legs. But they get top heavy and they just kind of fall over and then they grow a little weird.
Okay.
So just feel free when they're that first stage. Plant them nice and deep up to those first leaves. Or so, and that way you can get rooted in, and you'll be off to a good start. For me, that's one of the go-to little pro moves.
Okay,
for
cool.
brassicas. But I highly suggest anybody listening for fall planting, broccoli, cauliflower, greens in general.
Yeah, don't be scared. Go
for it.
Yeah.
They're fun. It's the fall season gardening to me is high output, low input in comparison to the summer garden, which is a little bit more input, but you still have a high out. But it's like the fall garden, man. It is
they grow so quickly. It's so surprising how quickly these things grow. Like the cauliflowers and the broccoli. Suddenly they're like 3 feet high and 3 feet wide, and you think, hang on a second, just a few weeks ago they were tiny little seedlings.
They'll surprise you. Well, what's your favorite cool season crop that we grow?
So I like the broccoli that we grow, and I like the colored cauliflowers, like the pink and the mustard looking, mustard colored cauliflowers. I like those.
Good to know. All right, we'll grow extra of those this year.
The mustard color.
We had the cheddar one that was like orange.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Actually, they look
deep
like
yellow.
that color.
Oh yeah, I've got a bunch of like yellow orange decor in here.
So you would like that cauliflower? We ought to get some for you when we grow.
Austin's got himself a plot, a community garden plot that he's kind of starting up
for the first time. I've never done it before. I'm really excited, not only to be a part of that community in that garden, but to be. This is also because you were asking me where I'm planting. This is the first time I'm planting in ground.
Okay.
So I've been on a gardening journey here with Kevin for a few years, and I've been restricted to containers for a lot of stuff. And so
you've done pretty well, I would say.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I'm excited to go in ground.
Yeah, in ground, these things can just really go to their full size. You don't, because in the pots they tend to they're restricted. The roots can't spread, that far. So
Definitely, that's been true.
But they are easier to manage in pots. I do a lot of at home, I have a lot of things in pots.
What are you growing at home right now?
So we have strawberries, mostly. That's mostly what we're eating. We were experimenting with tomatoes, but we just don't get enough sunlight in where we are on that patio. So I have ornamentals mostly. We have oleander, star jasmine. We have a really nice podocarpus that's gotten really tall and big now. We have some Burberry bushes, and we have some box hedges.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those are all really good ones. The fern pine is beautiful. Kind of gives you that like little lace, like kind of the thinner leaf, or almost looks tropical in a way, but it's pretty hardy.
I love the shadow it throws into the room when the sun's, to the west of it. It throws this shadow into the room, and you can see it moving on the walls. It's very pretty.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. We garden year round. For us, soil is really big. What would be your advice to Austin to get his garden off to a really good start, given what you've kind of gone through these last few years in our experiences?
The soil is so important, and to amend the soil, to get, like, if you can get hold of some really good compost, or even like the worm castings, things like that, amend the soil with that, and then the plants growing in that are going to be at their healthiest, and that actually deters some of the bugs. They can shrug off the bugs if they're really growing strongly. So soil is everything nearly. And then, the consistent watering and weeding, giving them, the room and the space to actually grow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a fresh start. This plot is bare right now.
All right. So
nothing there.
Lots of chicken manure, lots of compost, lots of amendments to the soil to give it, give those plants their best shot, and then keep adding to that. We're always adding fertilizers and soils and composted soils to the ground. We in between the plantings, or even as they're being planted, we'll add more. So those the vegetables and the fruits, they're heavy feeders, and they really, really appreciate that type of soil and those amendments going in.
Cool. I'll keep that in mind.
Just last week, we were wrist deep in some chicken manure. So at the school, we do the hot composting. Actually, somewhat hot, somewhat cold. We have a big compost pile, but then we have the worm compost. So maybe we'll try to hook you up with some worm castings.
Hey, I'm down.
To get you started.
Some of that black gold. Hook me up, man.
You know it, buddy. And that's really the way, because when we started, the soil at the school was full of gravel and asphalt and garbage. It was just...
Yeah, I mean, if you were to see what was there 15 years ago to what's there now, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, Kevin has done so much work over there.
And there could be a garden like this at every school. I'm telling you, it just takes a will and a passion for it. And I think food is so important. Plants offer so many different avenues for learning and success for our young youth. Whether you're an elementary age student, middle school, or high school, it's like there's a place for you out in the garden where you can learn, be yourself, and kind of explore the world in just so many different ways, science and history, culinary, whatever. So I'm a huge fan, obviously.
And bringing it back to the kids just for a sec, when they're out there and they're engaged, there's not even a thought of a screen of a phone.
It's a good point.
It's not even on the radar. They're completely in that world of the real world of soil, plants, insects, sky, birds, sun. And they forget about the troubles for a while they're there engaged. Obviously, when they're disengaged, those problems we can't control what happens when they leave school, but certainly we can be an influence while they're at the school. And I think that we're doing that.
Yeah, you're right that there is so much out there that is stimulating. We don't need a phone out there, but it does take me a second to switch gears. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true for you, but I have to kind of put that aside and then get started, and it takes a minute, and then I get sucked into it. I kind of fall into that garden flow, that garden zone. Have you experienced that too?
Yeah, that's where I live.
I've seen you out in the garden zone sometime. I'm like, Mr. A! Yelling. He's out there just like bent over, just weeding hard, like in the far in the corner. I'm like, focused.
I have been known to not answer the phone or the radio.
Okay.
Because I'm in that zone.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. But I do a little hybrid. I like to garden with music too. I've even made like garden playlists. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing technology into the garden as long as it's an assistive device, whether it's, giving you a mindset to really focus on what's in front of you. But if you're playing video games or watching the TikTok video or something, then it's doing the wrong thing. There's a place for that, but it's not at school and it's not in our gardens. And I think we're really impressing that on the kids more and more. Like when they come in, there's a certain expectation that they're not there to play around. But, we're going to learn something, we're going to do something, we're going to have fun doing it. But we're not there to, for fun and games in terms of video games and phones and all of the horseplay that you see, all of that, kind of eliminating that.
It kind of leads back to the garden where, like, whatever we value, the next generation has a greater opportunity maybe to value that as well, or to at least appreciate it. So what's nice is when we come to the garden, we bring kids into the class and we start working with plants and these living organisms. It's like we're trying to teach them many different things. But one of them is just having like a reverence for life and for a compassion for living things and nature, and they're part of that, hopefully, And so I don't know. I think there's just a lot of value in just getting some time in the garden, working with plants. He said, put down the TikTok and whatnot, and just focus a little bit. Or let your mind go a little bit. And the plants, I think, are a great way to do that. Mm-hmm. I love being out in the pollinator garden with you and the students. Mm-hmm. It's just fun to be out there. Just sometimes we're pulling weeds, we're adding mulch, we're mending irrigation or whatever, and then you just see a butterfly kind of flitter by, or we get tons of hummingbirds. Yeah, like crazy.
Really?
It's so wild. Yeah, hummingbirds, like different mating pairs we'll see.
No way.
And we're surrounded by them. Where before that was like a patch of weeds that was overwatered and poorly maintained. So it's kind of nice to be able to.
Can I ask, Mr. A, what's bringing in the hummingbirds?
Well, we have a lot of salvias. We have a lot of plants out there that they like.
Okay.
So they come in, they attracted by the color or the scent, and they come in and they start feeding. The salvias, we have...
those red hot pokers we just planted last year got huge.
They're really popular.
You see how big those plants got in one season?
Yeah, they hover around the crepe myrtles too.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see them in there nesting and hanging out.
They just like that garden.
They do.
They like those free gardens. Actually, I was out there this morning with a student, and I just gave him the right tool. Sometimes they just need to be given the right tool for the job, because the right tool makes things go a lot faster and easier, and it's more enjoyable. So I gave him the right tool, because he was using like something we were pulling up weeds, and I gave him the hula hoe, not the diamond hoe, but the other one. And I showed him how to use it, and he began working with it, and he was gone.
Yeah.
He was just doing that. He was happy.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great tool too, by the way.
Yeah, I love
hula
that.
hose, the stirrup hoe. Yeah.
That's way up there on the list.
Yeah, for sure.
Right behind the diamond hoe. I just love the diamond hoe. I don't know what it is.
We have a lot of cracks and crevices.
Yeah, we have
our
rocks.
border is like boulders. So there's a lot of irregular, little areas.
So this digs in between the boulders and stuff and cuts out the weed. And I like using them in between the rows just to mow down any nutsedge that's coming up.
Well, it's nice that you gave that, like the right tool for the right job. I think in gardening is a great advice, because it makes something that was once kind of difficult seem not so difficult, seems manageable.
Right.
From the student's perspective, now they're feeling successful. If it was me or just a home gardener, you're like, oh, I can garden. Look at that. I'm gardening. I'm doing it. So that is something to consider.
Yeah, it's really important that the students are successful in this, because that's a big part of, they can take that with them and take that home back into where they're living, and they can have this sense of pride that, hey, I accomplished something today at school. And so they can set an example for some of their younger brothers or siblings or friends in the neighborhoods. And if they can be successful here, then they can be successful anywhere. They can learn that, and that can really boost their self-esteem.
Yeah, so, critical.
It's critical for our particular population of kids.
For sure. And by the way, every teacher that Mr. A has worked with has gotten Teacher of the Year.
Including you, Kevin.
Including me, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to hang out with you more.
For sure. He is like a soothsayer or something. He's just like a magical You want him with you for sure. It was crazy. He told me that. I was like, I start looking back at his like work history. I'm like, yep, that checks out.
Wow.
He was with me for like a year, maybe 2 years, and I got hooked up.
What do you think it is? What is going on with you?
I don't know. I think I just work with great teachers, who deserve to be teachers of the year, and eventually someone else notices. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. What motivates you as a teacher? What do you think? Why do you do that? It's a hard job, a lot of people. Yeah,
it's a love for life, really. That's what it is, and the children are a big part of that. They're the next wave of that. So, and they have that. If you can catch a kid at the right time and give them the right encouragement, they can go a long way with that, and they can appreciate that. So that's what happened for me when I was a kid at school. I wasn't a troubled kid, but I certainly was a lot of trouble for some of the teachers. And I remember the teachers that were really encouraging. 40 years later, I still remember them.
You remember their names?
Yeah, and their foibles and,
Exactly.
the things that they would say or do. And so, to be a part of that and to give that back, to be giving back and to be part of this cycle of life, that's so important for us all. I just think it's almost an honor. Except that, there are challenges. I'm not going to sugarcoat. We have days when it's really hard and some of these kids are bugging out. Overall, it's very, very rewarding. And the rewards can be, instant. A kid will smile and say thank you, and that's a massive reward for this type of the kids in our population. So
yeah, they're lucky to have you. You've probably learned so much these past few years having to put up with me, Mr. A, out that garden. So I appreciate it. But I'm curious to anybody who's maybe getting back in the garden or is getting new to gardening. What would be your words of encouragement from some of the best lessons that you've learned over these past few years of working in the garden? Mm-hmm. What would be your thoughts on that? What are your best lessons learned?
Yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to let things, you're kind of discovering, you're kind of learning and discovering, and part of that is seeing what plants like and what they don't like. And if you can just learn from the mistakes, make one less mistake, then that's a massive thing over time. And time is the other thing, just to have the patience, because things are not always going to go your way. We've got weather, we've got pests, we've got our own moods, we might come in and be in the wrong mood and, destroy something, accidentally.
Shovel prune,
something. And regret that later. So, but plants, there's no end of plants. And so if you damage a plant or a plant goes awry in one way or another, there's going to be a million more plants. So don't ever get discouraged. And just keep going. Just stay on top of things. Feed the enthusiasm, because enthusiasm can wane. But if you feed it by doing new things, by discovering a new plant to try and plant somewhere, or to graft something we haven't done before. I'd really like to plant and see if we can grow orchids.
Yeah?
I know they're really hard to grow, but
no, they're doable.
It's a challenge. I mean, we don't have any. It'd be fun to see if we can get them to flower.
We got one or two in our classroom, but not enough.
I support this.
Yeah. Especially after we met the Orchid Society people, and they were all inspiring and fired up about it and enthusiastic.
It's a big rabbit hole.
So we'll get some.
Dive into, because there's so many species.
Yeah. And my wife's her mom is she's an orchid master.
Really?
And she has them growing in her kitchen and flowering and reflowering. So she knows something. I don't know what it is. Like my wife and I, we're hopeless at orchids.
We'll keep trying.
Just keep trying.
Do you have any good stories of Kevin?
The only thing I would say about Kevin is that he works so hard in that garden that if you don't work at least half as hard, then you feel really left behind. So for me, if I'm working hard, it's because I'm inspired by Kevin.
Oh, that's kind to say.
I love gardens as much as Kevin does, but he really does put in 150%. Maybe I do 101%, Kevin does 150.
Well, I haven't been telling you this, Mr. A. I'm only going out there and working because I saw you going out there and working. So I think we've gotten ourselves into a cycle.
We've got a feedback loop.
Yeah. We're in a feedback loop.
We're in a positive feedback loop there. But that's great.
I saw you. I got inspired. I'm like, I better get out there. I can't be in here, on my email. He's out there working hard. I'm like, all right.
Well, I hear about it every week, and he tells me what he's doing. I ask him for updates, and he said, "Oh yeah, I was in there getting after it. Sometimes I smell the fish kelp on him."
Oh yeah.
But you actually see it, so
yeah. I come in the mornings and I hear like the chainsaw, the weed whipper out there. Or I hear him clipping, so I go in, quickly check the email, and I get some tools, and I'm out there.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I either go out and join him, or I'll go into the pollinator garden, start working there, or the greenhouse. There's always something to do.
Yeah, it's going to get busy too really quick. We're going to start planting a lot.
Yeah, and we're planting more and more every year, it seems like.
I wish we had more time, but we gotta wrap things up.
Dang
So
All right. Yeah, that was fun. Thank you.
It was a blast
really
having you,
enjoyed
Mr. A. Such an honor to have you. Like I said, it's kind of fun to like go meet other new garden friends, but really extra special to bring you on and share you with the world. I look forward to seeing you all the time. It's kind of cool to be able to work with people that you can respect and appreciate. And so I always look forward to coming into work, even when it is difficult and the kids get a little rascally. I just look over at you and you're keeping your cool. So then I have to then keep my cool. And that's the kind of feedback loop I can give you a part of.
nice.
So thank you so much. I hope our listeners learned a bit, get inspired by what you've been going through and your work at the school and working with these students and just gardening and growing and cultivating. We need more of it. We need more of you out there, Mr. A.
Well, we need more of you out there, and we need more gardens out there.
Hear, hear.
Just more and more and more.
You said it. Well, thanks one more time to Mr. A, our guest of the week, for coming in and sharing his journey, his garden adventures with us. It was a blast having him. To all of our listeners, thanks for being here and tuning in. We love having you. It's an honor to be here each and every week. Austin, another great episode. Great work, my friend.
You got it, bud.
Can't wait to. Do you have any new videos coming out I can get excited about?
Yeah. Well, I just dropped the Zager's genetics tour.
Loved it.
Last week, and
I felt like I was there.
We've got irrigation videos coming out next week, so
that'll
look
be
out for
cool.
that.
That's super helpful because it's one thing to hear it, but to actually see it,
Well,
I think
it's
is
a
the
good
best way
thing to be thinking about now as people get into the fall season. It's a little cooler, time to check on your stuff and give it a look. So I don't need to talk about that now, but yeah, go ahead and check out those videos next week.
I'm looking forward to them already, bud. So until then, garden friends, have a great week. Go out there, get some dirt underneath those nails. Look forward to an amazing fall garden if you can. And until next week, garden friends, happy gardening to you all. And please,
Never stop growing.